Everyone, welcome back to Nimsite. Today, as part of the Australia series, I'm back with another video. So I'm going to talk about buying a car in Australia. So whether you're a newcomer or you've been here for quite some time, I thought this video would be really helpful. I will dive into some tips and tricks and some of the steps that you need to keep in mind while buying a car in Australia. Now, Australia has a very good public transport system. It's connected mostly, like in most of the places it's well connected. So trams, trains, and in all these states they are connected from different lines as well. So it's a good thing. But in some areas or for some situations or like your personal use as well, you might feel the need of having a car for better accessibility, for not waiting for the timing and stuff. So in those cases you might end up thinking of buying a car. So I think this video would be helpful. So let's move on to today's video. So the first step when you're buying a car is setting up a realistic budget. So you need to budget for your expenses. Now, when you consider buying a car, you should also consider some other prices. We will talk about it later in the video, like what all, but overall it's not just the price of the car, it's maintenance cost, insurance cost, then there's road tax and stamp duty, all these additional costs as well. So overall, what sort of money are you willing to spend? That is the first step before you start moving to the next step. The next step in your car buying journey is researching. Now, Australia has a lot of options when it comes to car. There are also some of the cars that are not readily available here, like it's imported from outside, so there is a waiting period as well. So while you are in the process of buying a car, it's very important for you to research your car. Like, what sort of car are you looking for? Is it a family car or is it like a sports car? What is the make, model, transmission? These are some of the main filters that usually people focus on. There are different websites that are readily available where you can check all these features, where you can check what are some of the most important features. I'll place the link in the description, and you can also see one of them is called car sales. So here, when you are actually trying to buy a car, you can put different filters, like which year was the car originally manufactured in, how many kilometers has it run, what is the type of engine, like is it manual, automatic, those kind of things. So you can put all these things, and that will give you an idea before you move on to the next step. Next step is finding the car. Now that you would have researched and you would have set a budget, like what sort of car you're looking for, is it a new car or a used car? Now it's the time to actually try to find some of the options. Now there are different ways in which you can find a car. You can find it through dealership, you can find it through private sellers. There, in some places there's auction as well. Now the main difference, or the main extra points with dealerships and private sellers, are dealerships are a bit more expensive, but there's an added advantage that they can offer you more security. There could be little bit scams when it comes to private sellers, so you have to be extra careful in that case. So these are some of the major differences. Now let's move on to the next process of inspecting a car. So the next step in your car buying journey is inspection of a car. Now, when you are inspecting a car, there are some things that you need to keep in mind. I'll provide the checklist in the description as well, so you can keep this in mind. Now, you have an option to schedule an inspection through the websites that I mentioned earlier, where you will do your research, like car sales, cars guide, etc. They usually give a place where you can schedule your inspections. So either you can do through that. Otherwise, there will be dealer contacts. You can call them directly. You can visit them directly. Now, if you are buying through a private seller, like usually Gumtree, Facebook Marketplace is a very popular platform where private sellers advertise their cars, and it attracts a lot of buyers as well. So that's a good way, but you need to be really careful, especially if it's a private seller. There are some things that you need to keep in mind. Check during the test drive as well, like the odometer, the paint, the tires, all these kind of things. When you give them a visit during the inspection, make sure you check check all of that thoroughly. You also have an option to getting it checked by a mechanic. So you can schedule a visit where you take the car to a mechanic, or a mechanic comes and visits and takes the car for a test drive and does other things as well. So that's always an extra safety step when it comes to inspection a car, to find any kind of faults or any problems, etc. Now let's move on to some of the legal documents and some of the things that you need to be, make sure you have before you seal the deal. The next step is the legal documents and all the other documentation related to buying a car. So the rules and regulations can vary from state to state, but there are some common things that might apply across any state. So you can ask for a roadworthy certificate when buying a car. Now, roadworthy certificate is sort of a document that tells whether a car is fit to be driven across the Australian roads. Now, there could be a history of accidents and the car could be written off. They call it written off, and there is a chance that the sellers might hide this fact. So you have a right to ask for a roadworthy certificate. They might charge you something extra, but it's always an extra layer of safety, and you can ask them to give you that along with the car. And there are some other documents also that you can ask: the service history, you might have to transfer the car in your name and you might have to pay something extra for that. There are some associated costs. I'll place that in the screen now. Insurance cost, then there is a motor tax, there is stamp duty as well. These are some of the costs. Now these will vary from car to car and what sort of place you're buying from, etc. So these are some of the documents and things that you need to be aware of before closing that final deal. So the final step is buying the car. Now you've got a lot of finance options where you can pay off in installments if you don't want to pay off upfront. There are a lot of financiers who offer loans, vehicle loans as well as personal loans. Now the interest rates can vary anywhere between 8 to 20%. Now through these websites itself, they will link you through different financiers. You can have, you can find a lot of financiers that are linked to the dealers as well if you're buying through dealers. Now, if you're buying through private sellers, you might need to tell them that, this process might take a couple of weeks. So they might have to wait. So they may or may not agree to get, through financiers, etc. So usually, buyers are good enough to wait for that period while you arrange all these finances, etc. Then there is also an option through some companies called novated car lease, where you can get some tax benefits as well when buying a car. So these are some of the ways in which you can buy a car. Now, having said that, I would also like to mention that you should always negotiate when buying a car, especially if you're buying through private sellers. I've heard that even dealers, or even like if you go to proper centers, even they might negotiate a bit. But if you're buying through private sellers, there's always a room for negotiation because they might have put ads at higher prices. So negotiate a bit. You can give them some token money and you can secure the deal as well. But you can always negotiate. Like I myself, in our case itself, we negotiated from around 23,000 to 20,000. So there is also that option. And before I end the video, the only thing I would like to highlight again and again, make sure you have got a comprehensive third-party insurance, because it will be really handy in case of any problems or any sort of unforeseen circumstances in the future. So make sure you consider that and don't delay that when buying a car. So these are some of the things, tips, steps, whatever you might want to call it, when buying a car in Australia. If you want to share any car buying experiences or anything that comes to your mind, put it down in the comments. Or if there's anything that I missed that could be valuable to the listeners, put it down in the comments as well. You can check out more Australian videos in the Australia playlist. Thank you so much for listening. Then shared in this video is based on personal experience and research. If you enjoyed the video, like, share and subscribe. Keep watching, keep listening and continue learning.